You know, when you hear the word evolution, you probably picture dusty fossils, maybe some dinosaurs, right? But here's the thing. Evolution isn't just ancient history. It's a process that's happening right now, all around us. And the clues, they're hiding in plain sight, and even inside our own DNA. Okay, let's get into it. To see what I mean, let's start with a modern day evolutionary mystery. For as long as we can remember, African elephants have been famous for their massive ivory tusks. But lately, scientists are noticing something really different. So, what on earth is going on? The answer, and it's a tough one, has everything to do with us, with humans. For decades, intense poaching for ivory created what biologists call a massive selective pressure. Think about it. Elephants with big, beautiful tusks were the ones who got hunted. The ones born without tusks, they were often just left alone. So, who was more likely to survive, have babies, and pass on their genes? You got it, the tuskless elephants. It's a powerful and kind of tragic example of natural selection happening in real time. Now, that whole situation with the elephants brings up that super famous phrase, survival of the fittest. But what does fittest actually mean when we're talking about evolution? It's probably not what you think. See, here's the key. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. In Darwin's world, fitness boils down to one thing: reproductive success. An organism is fit if it's good at making babies that survive and make more babies, passing those genes on. For the elephants in that specific, dangerous environment, being tuskless made them the fittest because they were the ones who got to live and reproduce. Okay, so we can see these changes happening now. But how do scientists actually map out these relationships over millions of years? Well, they use this incredible tool called a phylogenetic tree. You can think of it like a family tree for all of life, showing how every species is connected. Let's figure out how to read one. Take a look at this one for annel lizards. It looks complicated, but it's pretty simple. Every place a line splits into two, that's called a node, represents a common ancestor. The branches show how different species have gone their separate ways over time. So the closer two branches are to each other, the more recently they split off and the more closely related they are. And let's grab a key piece of vocab here, the outgroup. See that line for Apatura carolensis at the very bottom? Notice how it branches off from the main trunk before any of the others? That makes it the outgroup, the most distantly related species in this little collection. It gives us a great point of reference for everyone else on the tree. All right, time for a little pop quiz. Let's apply what we just learned. Take a look at this primate family tree. Based on how the branches are laid out, who are our closer evolutionary cousins, bonobos or gorillas? If you said bonobos, you absolutely nailed it. See, if you trace our branch and the bonobo branch back, they connect at a point that's more recent than the point where we both connect with the gorilla branch. We share a more recent common ancestor with bonobos. And just like that, you're reading an evolutionary tree. But you might be wondering, how can scientists be so sure about these trees? I mean, they're mapping out millions of years of history. While looking at physical traits is useful, the absolute best evidence today comes from the molecular level, from clues buried deep inside our DNA. Okay, so let's dive into another biological puzzle. Check this out. Most mammals, we're talking everything from elephants to mice, can actually produce their own vitamin C inside their bodies. But humans, chimps, and orangutans, nope, we can't. We have to get it from food, or we get sick with scurvy. So why? Why did our ancestors lose this super important ability? The culprit turns out to be a single broken gene. It's called the gulo gene. Way back in one of our ancestors, a mutation happened that just switched it off. It became non-functional. We all still carry this broken version, which is called a pseudogene. It's like having a recipe in a cookbook where a critical step has been scribbled out. You have the recipe, but you just can't make the final dish. And here it is, the smoking gun. This is the actual DNA sequence for that gulo gene. Look right there at position 7. In elephants, mice, lemurs, they all have a C nucleotide. But in orangutans, chimps, and humans, it's just gone. That single missing letter is the genetic typo. It caused what's called a frameshift mutation, which scrambled all the instructions that came after it and completely broke the recipe for vitamin C. Now watch this. This is where it all comes together beautifully. When we map that exact same genetic flaw onto the primate family tree, look where it lands. The X marks the spot. The mutation happened in a common ancestor of orangutans, chimps, and humans after that ancestor had already split off from the lemurs. A shared, specific, broken gene like this. That is incredibly powerful evidence confirming that we are all in the same little branch of the family tree. So why didn't this turn out to be a fatal flaw for our ancestors? Well, the environment gives us the answer. Our primate ancestors were likely living in lush forests with a diet packed with fruit. They were getting a constant, massive supply of vitamin C every single day, so there was just no selective pressure to keep the internal vitamin C factory running. When the gene broke, it really didn't matter. It wasn't a disadvantage at all. Okay, for our last example, let's look at one more gene that perfectly ties all of these ideas together. The gene itself, the pressure from the environment, and the odds of survival. And it all comes down to a matter of taste. So here we're looking at variations in a gene called TAS2R38. This gene's job is to control a protein on your tongue that lets you taste bitter compounds. Now, why is that important? Well, out in the wild, a lot of poisons and toxins are intensely bitter, so being able to taste them could literally be the difference between a safe meal and your last meal. Let's zero in on gorillas. In their forest environment, there are plenty of plants that could make them sick or even kill them, so being able to taste bitterness is a huge survival advantage. This creates a really strong selective pressure. The gorillas who have the working taster gene can identify and avoid those toxic plants. They live longer, they have more offspring, and they pass that taster gene on. And what's the result? The non-taster version of the gene is incredibly rare in the gorilla population. It's a perfect case study: gene, environment, outcome. That's natural selection in a nutshell. So from the tusks of an elephant all the way down to these tiny, broken genes that we all carry around inside of us, the story of evolution is it's written everywhere. It really is a vast, living history book coded into the DNA of every single thing on this planet. And that just makes you wonder, what other incredible stories are just sitting there waiting for us to read them?